Why don't hiring managers call us back? It's the eternal, infernal question of job seekers everywhere. But today, I've got answers. This study lists the top 10 biggest mistakes job seekers make when writing their resumes. If you feel like you've been tossing applications into a bottomless pit, this information might just change the game. I'm Anna, a career writer here at Resume.io, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to write the perfect resume while avoiding these critical mistakes. Let's get started. Hiring managers are notoriously tight on time. So tight, in fact, that the average resume gets viewed for just 7 seconds. Any small error can make them stop reading your resume and move on to the next. To make sure that doesn't happen to you, I'm going to show you how to track down the most common resume mistakes and eliminate them one by one. Let's start by opening a sample resume for a sales associate. At first glance, this example looks pretty solid. The candidate is a recent graduate who wants to go into fashion retail. They've got a skills section, employment history, all the basics. But if we look closer, all is not as it seems. Let's check out the header. This is where the candidate can make their name and contact information stand out to catch the hiring manager's attention. But here, we see that the candidate didn't include a phone number, which is kind of like saying, no thanks, please don't call me for an interview. Mistake number 1, not a good look. Let's add that in right here. They did include an email address, but it looks like the one they made in middle school. No hiring manager is going to want to type that in. Mistake number 2, let's fix it. There's one more potential issue in the header, and it's probably the most obvious one on the page, depending on where you live. In the US and Canada, a headshot on a resume is a total deal breaker. A lot of companies won't even consider resumes with photos because of laws around discrimination in hiring. It looks like this candidate is based in New York, so let's take this off right away. And if you were wondering how important your header actually is, we've just eliminated 3 mistakes that could have cost this candidate the interview in the header alone, so make sure to double check this section. Let's keep moving down the page. This is the summary. Think of this section as your highlight reel. This candidate has discussed their experience, skills, and education. But if I look closely, I can see that it doesn't mention anything about the job they're applying for. That's our next mistake, a resume that's too generalized. This resume could literally be sent to hundreds of positions, and that's a bad thing. A hiring manager wants to know you're interested in a specific opening at their company. Let's clean this up by adding in the name of the position and the employer. And we can add in major fashion retailers instead of just retail settings. Okay, that's better, but we're not quite done here because the next mistake goes hand in hand with the first. This summary contains too many repetitive words and phrases from job descriptions for general sales associate positions. Let's replace them with sentences that actually say something about the candidate's skills and meet the conditions the hiring manager has outlined in the job description. Now that the summary is in great shape, let's keep the momentum going into the employment history section. This candidate has done a good job formatting this section in terms of job title, employer name, and date. But when we look closely at the bullet points, we can see that in a crowded field of applicants, this candidate likely won't get picked for the interview. Why? Because they haven't demonstrated or quantified results in their previous positions. Let's help them prove the impact they had by using some better numbers and statistics. To make this easier, we can use the XYZ method popularized by recruiters at Google. Achieved X as measured by Y by doing Z. This allows us to keep the achievement right at the beginning of the sentence, so the employer can't miss it. Okay, before we leave the employment history section, we need to zoom out a little bit and take it in as a whole. I can see that this candidate has repeated the same skill, POS or point of sale, 6 times, even here where it doesn't quite make sense. The hiring manager might see this as keyword stuffing, which is when you deliberately overuse important words from the job description in order to beat the automated resume scanners that are built into most online application portals. Don't get me wrong, keywords are good and important in resumes, but you also need to write for the human who will be making the final decision about whether or not you get the interview. Let's replace a few of these with different skills from the job description and make sure everything is grammatically correct. We are down to the last 3 errors in this resume, and if I come here to the end, I see that the candidate has included some activities they did in high school, even though they just graduated from college. Hobbies aren't always a bad thing, but this candidate wants a position directly in their field of study, so we can use this space for something more current and relevant, like an internship or related coursework. This resume is so much stronger than when we started, but we just need to give it a very careful read through to make sure there are no spelling and grammar mistakes anywhere on the page. I might be a writer, but I'm also human. And yes, I see one right here. Fixed it. And a second one. Okay, that was 2 chances to eliminate myself that I just avoided. And now there's just one final thing to discuss, and that's what the hiring manager is going to notice first: the layout of your resume. Studies show that designs that draw the eye down the page and also include bold section titles are more likely to keep the hiring manager reading. On the other hand, a design that's too elaborate is the 10th mistake that can get your resume thrown out. Even a simple template can help make sure you have enough white space on the page, an attractive color scheme, and professional font styles and sizes. You should consider changing your template based on the position you're applying for and saving different versions for different openings. And that's it! These 10 mistakes might have cost you the job, but not anymore. Before you go, let me give you a quick rundown of my top 3 additional tips for resume writing. Number 1, get to the point. Unless you've got decades of experience under your belt, it's best to keep your resume to just 1 page, at least when applying in the US or Canada. If you're overflowing with experience, just adapt your resume for the specific situation by taking off certain bullet points or job titles when they're not relevant, for example. And number 2, get specific. The job description is your personal cheat sheet. Look for duties and skills that are important to the employer and put them on your resume while being completely honest about your experience. And number 3, save it right. If you're emailing or printing, a PDF is the way to go because the formatting won't change between computers. If you need to upload your resume to an online application, make sure to check if the employer prefers a Word doc. And that's all there is to it. You've got all the tools you need to write that job-winning resume. Make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for even more videos on making your application the best it can be. Now it's time to go out there and get that job.